Hello and welcome to another episode of Mike and Dave's Hi-Fi Riff. I'm Mike Evans.
I'm David Price.
And David, on this week's riff, what are we going to be reviewing, bearing in mind I'm holding a microwave box in my hand?
We're going to be reviewing a Panasonic microwave. Mike.
Fantastic. This is the
NNE27JWM, brackets white.
Can I ask why we're reviewing a Panasonic microwave on Mike and Dave's Hi-Fi Riff?
Because it's the box that I used to put this in. Oh.
So we can get rid of this.
We can, yes.
I'm a bit disappointed, actually.
You were very excited by that.
I was quite looking forward to doing a Panasonic microwave review. Pretty cool. I was
Very
wondering
strange.
sort of what we were going to focus on. You know,
Yes.
the ting when the food ends, or
Yes.
you know, the ping of the drawer or something like that. So. I don't know. How do you review microwaves? I don't know. People must do it though, mustn't they?
Let's start a channel called Microwave Riff.
Mike and Raves.
So, I'm sorry, viewers. Let's just get to the point, shall we? We're reviewing the Philips CD960 CD player
That
today.
was a mic joke.
I know. That's why I didn't laugh.
I know.
And no one else did.
True. I did. I
could hear tumbleweed across the entire internet.
I
for a
thought it was
split
really
second.
funny.
Yes, I know. Well, that's the definition of a mic joke. No one laughs and you think it's really funny.
Okay. Conceded.
Yes. Okay,
Anyway,
good.
before you were rudely interrupted.
Yes, absolutely. Before I was so rudely interrupted, I'll just do a mic here and show you the back panel. There we go.
I'm very impressed. You're
Yeah,
learning.
I thought you would
This
be.
is really cool.
But this is actually more interesting. So
This is funky. Now, you could be easily forgiven for thinking this was a cassette deck
you could.
because it's got the old piano thing at the front,
Yep.
which many of your cassette decks have
Yeah, Iowa.
from this
So
era.
it's basically, it could be at a distance. It could be an Iowa cassette deck.
It really could.
From like an ADF 770 from the mid-late 80s or something, couldn't
It's-
it?
yes,
So
yeah.
I have to put this down before I
No, sure, because it's not light, is it?
do myself an injury.
It's not light at all.
No.
And there's a reason why, because it's built like a tank.
It is.
It's absolutely built like a tank. It's
built like a microwave.
a really good one and not the Panasonic.
Yes, exactly.
No offence to anyone who's got Panasonic microwaves. I don't know what I'm talking
I've got
about.
one.
Have you? Well, that's very good.
That's the box.
Of course it is. Why did I not think of
Yeah.
that?
So
Sorry,
there we go.
didn't mean to be rude about your microwave.
It's all right. I'm used to it from you.
What can I say? That's so not true because I'm seldom rude about your hi-fi because you do from your sort of your archives, your museum.
Yeah.
You do have some phenomenal bits of kit. This being one of them.
Well, yeah. Sadly, this is actually lent to me by a very good friend of mine called Tim Jarman.
That can only mean one thing. That can only mean.
I don't have one.
And okay, it can mean two things. One, you don't have one, and there's a reason why, because clearly they obviously don't come up on eBay all that often.
Correct.
And I bet you've got an eBay search
Correct.
for those as we speak.
Yes.
And nothing.
Absolutely.
Ah, you see,
So,
there we are. There we
go.
What makes it so special?
Well, that's a good question.
It's the first time ever.
Yes, you finally said
At
something
last.
sensible. We're 3 minutes 50 into the riff, and
Yes.
you finally stopped talking complete nonsense.
Well, what can I say? Well, it will resume.
Okay, so let's go back in time, shall we, to 1982. So, what were we doing in 1982? Probably listening to Japan's Quiet Life in your bedroom.
I had a Suzuki AP50.
You did?
You had a
Honda.
four-stroke.
I had a Honda CB50.
You had a CB50
Yeah.
four-stroke. So we had the two-stroke, four-stroke wars.
We did.
Which of course I won.
You did win.
I did win.
Because your bike was much faster than mine.
Yes, yours was more reliable, probably.
It was, yeah.
But we weren't interested in that.
Well, my Honda
That age.
CB50 did 140 miles to the gallon.
That's only you would measure it. I mean,
Yeah.
I've no idea what my AP did.
Well, I measured your AP as well. It was about 70, 60. so,
Okay, okay.
But anyway, that's a two-stroke, four-stroke conversation for
Quiet
another
Life,
time.
Quiet Life by Japan.
Yep.
I guess kind of that was around about the sort of Duran era as well,
Yeah,
wasn't
I
it?
think,
You know, sort
I
of
think
Planet
Duran
Earth and
were
stuff like
just
that.
about to release Rio, weren't they?
Oh yes,
That kind of
possibly.
thing.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. So that was sort of charty stuff.
Yep.
But hi-fi wise, we were Riga Planner 3s. Were we Riga Planner
Not
3 yet?
quite.
Not quite.
We were
No,
probably
okay.
sort of...
I was dual CS505 then.
Dual
at that point.
CS505 era.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically that's when CD came out, 1982, September.
Yes. Yeah.
But we in the UK, and I think in Europe, didn't get it until 1983. When it did arrive, then you had two types of machines. I don't know if you remember. You had the Philips-based machines and the Japanese machines.
Yes.
And without wishing to bore everyone off their bar stools about, kind of technical things like DACs and things.
But you're just about to.
But I'm just about to. So the Japanese machines were true 16-bit, 2 times oversampling designs. Basically, the Philips machines were only 14-bit resolution, but they had 4 times oversampling done with a very clever, effectively digital signal processing chip and a sort of noise shaping chip. So you had 14x4 Philips and you had 16x2 Japanese, and you'd think that the 16-bit would sound better than the 14-bit, wouldn't you?
You would,
but they didn't. And
no.
Everyone in the Hi-Fi mags that we were reading said the Philips machines were better. And that was basically down to the oversampling, the 4 times oversampling, which is much more sophisticated than the Japanese. So you then basically had, for the first couple of years of CD, this sort of, specs war. Like, do you get a 16-bit 2 times or a 14-bit 4 times? And the problem for Philips was, even though it was making better players, better sounding players, then you go into your local Laskys or something and you go, tell me about that, and they say that's a 14-bit machine, and tell me about that, that's a 16-bit. So a lot of people bought the 16-bit machines because it's like
more is more.
2 better.
Yes.
2 more.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. You had a Yamaha machine.
Yeah, I had
First of all, natural sound Yamaha player.
I had a Yamaha CDX2.
Yes.
Which was a 16-bit 2 times oversampling.
Interesting.
Which is time shared with both channels and an analog filtering, and it sounded impressive, but it didn't really sound that musical to me.
Sure.
And I ended up selling it to probably fund my Honda CB250 Super Dream.
There you are. Which is a very good idea.
Yes,
very good idea.
There we go. So,
but this is a little bit special, isn't it?
It is.
This chap here. It's just something quite magical about this.
Yeah. Well, this has got the chip that Philips then followed up with. So don't worry, viewers. We'll get over the technical bit in a minute. But this has got the Philips TDA1541A chip. DAC chip in it, which is 60. Okay.
Yeah, fine. Yeah.
So you can go out and have a walk if you want.
Yes, I'm going to go have a lie down.
It's a nice day outside. But this is so important to the story of this CD player, which is why I'm boring everyone off their bar stools. So this has got a 16-bit 4 times oversampling, and so this was Philips' new chip that came out in 1986. So finally, they'd kind of got one up on the Japanese, as it were. So they got 16-bit, but they also had the 4 times oversampling. And this chip is, if you're a real hi-fi geek, a digital geek, you know that the 16-bit 4 times oversampling Philips is the bee's knees.
This isn't just that chip, though, is it?
No.
There's more to this, isn't there?
Yeah. So this has got, they did an S1 version, which means selected version. So when you make chips, you get them and you test them, and some of them are really good and some of them aren't so good. And basically the selected ones were the S1, and then Philips also they took the S1 selected versions and then further selected them to get the very best sounding S1s, and they called those the S2, and they put a little crown on the chip, it's called double crown. So basically this machine's got the best Philips 16-bit 4 times oversampling
cult chip.
Absolutely, they're a cult chip, and you're just pretending you weren't interested. You did know that.
You see, I was listening.
Gotcha.
No, I was listening.
So basically,
it's a lot of effort they've gone to.
It's a lot of effort they've gone to. Now, Philips in the mid-'80s were having this big war, as it were, with Sony, Yamaha, Technics, etc. So this chip came out, and it was made a really big splash. And I remember the Hi-Fi magazines of the day going, "Oh my God, you knew Philips 16-bit 4 times oversampling." and it sounded, I think, it sounded fantastic. So it had the kind of incision and bite of the 16x2 Japanese DAC chips, or the ones using the DAC chips using Japanese machines, and it had the musicality of the Philips machines. So the early Philips machines, the 14-bit 4x, which would be the CD100 and its variants, were lovely. They were very warm and big, and they actually sounded quite analog. Very big, warm and fluffy sound, but they were a little bit vague and diffuse. And the 16-bit replacement chips were much more insightful and had loads of bite. And you noticed that as soon as we switched it on, didn't you?
I was quite shocked by it, to be really honest. I was really quite shocked. I thought it was astonishingly good, I hate to say. It's... God, where were we when this was out? Because why didn't I hear this? I was retailing. No, actually, probably before my time. To be fair,
I think that was the you're missing 2 or 3 years, Mike, when beer sales in Britain went up.
It went up, and I was in a pub. Yes, absolutely. But it's just never been on my radar.
No.
Until today. To be honest,
yeah,
and we played it with some, we've done, do you know what we've really been in keeping here, haven't we? We've paid loads of attention to detail because we've used albums from the time it was made, from kind of early 80s.
Yep. This machine, by the way, was made in 1987. Right?
Okay, right.
So the Philips TD1541 chip was 1986, and this is 87.
And we've got my 1987 amplifiers to go with it.
Yes.
So we used my Exposure 6, 7, and Super 8.
Yes.
Pre-power and power supply.
Yep.
To go with it, and the Dali Ruby cores. The Salvador Dali's, which we've talked about before, and we will do a riff on. And depending on the continuity, we may have already done it, if that makes sense. But which I love, I have to say, and it sounded really good, really good. So we played this, which is Grace Jones.
Yep.
And this is Island Life.
Yes, this is a compilation of Grace Jones. It's an absolutely brilliant disc to get.
It is great.
It's 1985, it's released.
I've heard it sound really bright.
Yes.
I've heard it sound a little bit sort of ear bleeding, especially Grace's vocals on some of the tracks.
Yeah.
There's a great Trevor Horn documentary which you showed me on YouTube.
Yes.
Which is it's like an interview which goes on for about a day.
It's amazing.
But he talks about his recording, and I think one of the things he says with Grace Jones is I think she gave him about 10 minutes of her time to record. It was
Slave to the Rhythm.
Slave to the Rhythm, yeah. So she just they'd done everything, and so she came in and sang and ran away again.
Yeah, I think it was done in New York, and Grace Jones had a cold or something. She was in a really bad mood.
Okay.
And he finally got her to go and lay this vocal track down. And she doesn't really, it's not an awful lot. It's not an awful lot of words actually. It's mainly just singing "Slave to the Rhythm." And she was in a bad mood, and she absolutely knocked it out of the park.
She does, but you can probably tell that Trevor Horn only had one take at it, because everything else on the song is so beautifully produced.
Yes.
And the letdown bit are probably her vocals in the way they're recorded.
Yeah.
But actually, still sounded really good on your Philips.
It's a great song, I think. It's one of my favourite tracks of the 80s.
It is, yeah.
And it was so 80s in its production as well, wasn't it?
And we've talked about this before, because he's re-recorded it for his Echoes album, latest one, with Lady Blackbird, and that's a stunningly good recording as well as live recording. Sounds incredible. So that was really cool.
Yep.
What else did we do?
Right.
What was funny is we pulled out my old CD player. I had an old Philips Bitstream player. We did a comparison.
CD960.
Yeah, and we found a Joey Rafferty record in there which I haven't seen in 25 years. This is a cracker. Love this album. I'm not sure you're as keen on it as I am, but I absolutely adore it.
I prefer Golden Age of Wireless, personally.
There we go.
I do like it, but it's really polished and professional. But
Thomas Dolby, Flat Earth.
Yeah,
Brilliant, polished and professional. And I love some of the songs in it.
Yeah.
The Flat Earth itself song is amazing tune, just fantastic. We played Dissidents with that incredible bass line, because we wanted to see if this had any bass, and I think we concluded it certainly does.
Yeah, it
so
does.
It was knocking it out of the park, wasn't it? So that's really cool.
Yeah.
Good album. Really like this album. Takes a little bit of getting into, but I just think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
But if you're into your hi-fi, it makes it very easy to listen to because it sounds so amazing.
Yeah.
Which was cool. What else did we do? Shall I do this bit?
Yeah.
We've got some gems here. Sorry about this, everybody. Not very well prepared. So we played Jerry Rafferty. We played Get It Right Next Time.
Yeah, that's it.
Sounded okay?
It sounded very accurate to the recording, which isn't very good.
Yes, okay, we'll leave it at that.
But it's still it's a great song, and it still sounded good enough, didn't it?
ZZ Top.
That was a belter.
ZZ Top, Need You Tonight.
Yeah.
Excellent song. If you haven't played this and you don't have it, stream it right now. Great recording. Sounded fantastic.
It did.
Absolutely.
It really did, yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of...
I heard Sharp Dressed Man was written about you. Is that true?
Of course it was, yes. Absolutely. Yes.
So, yeah.
It's probably more TV dinners. Were you going to have a follow up on your? Was that the preface to a?
There's so many things. Your Go Sleeping Bag would be another one that.
Do you know? Well, I'm not going to go into. We're not going to go into dress code. There we are. We'll keep that to ourselves. And we played this. Look at that. It's got the price tag on it. Virgin Records. $11.99. It's a lot, isn't it?
You never normally pay more than about £1 for a CD.
I know. It hasn't got a charity label on it or anything. I wonder if I did. Yeah. This is Jordan the Comeback, which I probably would have bought on the day of release because we were both quite big Prefab Sprout fans for Rich or for Paul.
Yeah,
there we are. Played Looking for Atlantis. Wasn't too bad. Bit bright on that.
Yeah,
it was a bit harsh on the Philips.
So I think that's a good point. So the Philips 16-bit 4 times oversampling players, machines have got a reputation for brightness, right? And I think that to an extent that is true because they're quite in your face.
Yeah.
And if the recording is in your face and the system is revealing, they'll tell you. Whereas the Bitstream players that followed are much more kind of mellow and sort of Radio 2, aren't they?
But when we played it on the Bitstream player, it just didn't come out of the box, did it? It just they got stuck in the speakers.
Yeah.
And as soon as you put that on, it was like, whoa, where's all this noise coming from? And
really big sound stage, excellent stage depth. But and the dynamics on this machine are particularly good. I think
stunning. I mean, there was a snare drum which went off on the Slave to the Rhythm, and it sort of made you blink. It sort of took you back
like a firecracker.
It really was.
And you get onto a good modern streamer, like 2 grand streamer or something. You compare that to the sound that this thing makes, and the streamer just sounds polite and tidy and detailed and
flat,
but flat.
It sounds flat.
Absolutely.
Yeah. This really brought it to life,
and that's why that the TDA1541 DAC chip has a kind of cult following, machines with that in it. And they did all kinds of DACs and CD players, not just Philips, but many other manufacturers as well used it, are really, really kind of charismatic and sort of powerful sounding.
Sure.
And the other thing to say about the CD960 was that it cost £700. It was basically the best the best thing that Philips could do, and it was basically identical to the Marantz CD94 that came out with a much more flashy, kind of more metallized kind of look to the casework.
Yeah.
But it was really, the kind of state of the art, as it were, of that time in terms of 16-bit. And only 2 years later, Bitstream arrived, and things just got a bit more kind of, how can I say, asinine, just sort of slightly less interesting and less fun.
Yeah.
And that's why,
they were cheaper chips. They were probably not as well selected. It was a different way of processing, wasn't it?
Well, that's right. I mean, Bitstream was designed basically for easier mass production, and it was designed with lower power consumption. It would fit in portables. It would fit in car players. It would basically, it's a much more it's a more kind of universal kind of thing.
Yes.
And there are good Bitstream players without a doubt, but this was the sort of high watermark really of the multi-bit era.
Love it.
Mike, would you like to switch it on? Press
the power
button and stick a CD in.
There we go.
We can
And you were telling me something really interesting here about the transport.
Yeah.
So this isn't actually a Philips transport, is it?
It is a Philips transport. You need to press that's it. Yeah. So there you go. So just teaching Mike how to use a CD player here. Can't be controlled from his iPhone, you see, viewers. So it's very difficult for him. He tries his best though.
Just ignore him.
And so the Philips transport itself is a CDM1, which is arguably their best ever CD transport, and all the geeks and stuff. There you go. Look at the nice little panel there.
Oh yes, very nice.
Access that pops
Lovely.
out and
Very
pop
cool.
back in again.
Yeah, love that.
So
sweet,
yeah.
isn't it?
So basically, the transport itself is excellent. Arguably, kind of cult transport. A lot of people in the kind of full-on CD player geek world think it's fantastic and never bettered. And also, the lasers on that transport last a very, very long time. Tend not to fail anywhere near as easily as the lasers in Japanese machines. But the other thing was that the disc tray, the disc loader thing, is a very complex design, I think, which was made by Marantz for Philips, because normally Philips had a very clunky disc tray arrangement.
Yeah.
So it's lovely and swish.
Excellent.
But the belts do go though, so that's the only major downside of buying one of these,
or not being able to buy one because you can't find them anywhere for love nor money.
Especially, and
which is why you've had to borrow
one. That's
one.
going to get even worse
from Mr. Jarman. There we are.
There we go.
I've got two questions.
Yeah.
Firstly, give me a riffometer score.
So I'm going to give it a 10.
Are you?
So I am. Yeah.
Right.
So for what it was at the time, I think it was one of the absolute best CD players on sale. It's not, you can criticize it. It can be a little bit sort of overly well lit, a bit too well lit, as it were, on some quite harsh recordings. But it has amazing bass, amazing separation, amazing stage depth. And the biggest thing to me is it's just such a musical sounding player. The dynamics and the kind of timing are superb. So
I'm only going to give it a 9.
Okay.
And it's going to drop a point because I'm really disappointed that Philips didn't market it better.
Right.
Otherwise, I would have bought one. And there we are. My second question.
Yeah.
Can I have my CD back,
No.
please? Did you see that? On that note,
what CD?
On that note, you see, this is what I have to put up with.
The power seems to have gone off. It's broken, Mike.
Yes, yeah, great. And
I'll
there
get
we go.
back to you another time.
Yes, I can't wait.
Okay.
And on that note, or lack of, thank you very much indeed for watching this week's episode of Mike and Dave's Hi-Fi Riff. We'll see you at the next one. Bye.
Bye.
Can you eject it now, please?
No.